Hey everybody, time for another edition of Favorite Wrestling Feuds. This is going back to the poll I did a couple months ago now. I had three choices: Steen El Generico, Richards and Edwards, and Punk and Joe. Punk and Joe was the first winner, so I already talked about that feud. So let's talk about the next runner-up, Kevin Steen versus El Generico. Alright, I'm pulling up the information on both those guys. Yeah, Kevin Steen and El Generico. They were a fantastic tag team, and they're like one of those tag teams that were cool, and they never actually had like an official tag team name. It was like everybody else was like, this and that, and all this other stuff. Kevin Steen and El Generico were just that. They were never had like a cohesive tag team unit name. They were just Kevin Steen and El Generico. Accolades: 2-time Pro Wrestling Guerrilla World Tag Team Champions and 1-time ROH World Tag Team Champions. They I think originally started off as semi-adversaries and like really hate each other to the feud that they got to in Ring of Honor, but they were a great tag team. Because you had the kind of manipulative, Kevin Steen, and Generico just kind of just like, yeah, I'll just go wherever Steen's going. I'm going with Steen, And that's how they pretty much ran things. They had, outright wars with like the Briscoes, which the latter war lives in infamy in Ring of Honor now, the first one. And if you haven't seen Ladder War 1, man, you got to pick that up. I don't care which DVD you find it on, just watch it. That is an insane match. Their wars with, the American Wolves, which led to Ladder War 2, which was equally as crazy. And even they had, brawls with Age of the Fall, and like a lot of other guys, to their individual, bouts for the World Championship that, several guys held at the time, and they were always going for it. These two guys were fantastic tag team, and, were just really, really cool in singles competition. I have the DVD, and it's actually a pretty insane moment. Final Battle 2009. Excuse me, sorry. And when it looks like Steen's gonna give his return speech, and he's talking to Generico, and he's like, real serious, real, just patting and on the shoulders, as Generico, I hate your effing guts, and just assaults this guy. It's like, what just happened? Fans going nuts. You are watching. You don't know what's going on. And then it's like Kevin Steen begins like this, just like, even has DVDs titled Descent into Madness. And it doesn't help that Steve Corino was starting to have his back and was the reason for his change. And for all of 2010, you had one of the greatest feuds in all of wrestling, made even greater by the fact that in Ring of Honor they did not even go head to head until about 6 months later, something like that, Death Before Dishonor 8, and that match was just like, they just, there was such a crazy emotions they were building up, that breaking a lot of protocol in wrestling, and of the show. Generico ran out the beginning of the card of the pay-per-view and demanded Steen get out there and they start this match now. Steen was more than happy to oblige, though Steve Corino tried to keep him out of it. Their feud was so big that it started to incorporate Steve Corino, and Generico found a friend in Colt Cabana, and that just made the feud even crazier. When you add, I think was it Glory by Honor? It was Glory by Honor. Yeah, I think it was Glory by Honor 9, where you had the double chain match, where Steen ripped off Generico's mask, and that was a super bloody affair. The double chain match. It was Steen and Corino versus Generico and Colt Cabana. It was kind of surreal to see Steen and Generico in a tag team match on opposite sides. That's a shocker. But that was the intensity of the feud. Generico, who would always worn a mask, and just have it ripped off of him just like that, and he had to just get out of there, have his face covered and everything. And the feud at this point ended. At Final Battle 2010 in a fight with a non-sanctioned, might I add, fight without honor. Where if Steen lost, he was gone from ROH. If Generico lost, he had to take off his mask forever. Generico won. Steen was gone, did not show up on anything Ring of Honor related until Best in the World, where a reformed Steve Corino and Jimmy Jacobs tried to bring him in as as a reformed Steve Corino, and he was not reformed at all, and it was hilarious. Yeah, and even when Steen won back his a chance, won back his spot in the Ring of Honor roster, it was back to business for both men. Generico came back out, and they just started fighting all over again. Their feud continued, and it reached its complete and total end of Final Battle 2012. When in Ladder War 4, the first time of a ladder war where it was just a one-on-one competition, Kevin Steen beat El Generico to retain the ROH World title. That's pretty much the feud in a nutshell. Let me explain, now we've gotten that out the way, let me explain to everyone why this is just like one of my favorite feuds. You get a lot of like feuds in wrestling that, you're kind of like, this can only go so far. This can only go so far. This could really, really, really go so far. And in truth, maybe you could have even thought that about the Generico and Steen feud when it started. When it started, you could have said, okay, how long are they going to drag this out? How long are they going to... But the brilliant thing about that is, with Steen and Generico, you have two guys who make it interesting. That makes you want to watch what they're going to do next. And, when you have the right two guys, the right two elements, you have the, becoming increasingly unstable Kevin Steen, and just starting to really show anger El Generico, clashing against one another, former best friends, multiple time tag team champions. You have this mixture that was just perfect. It was named Feud of the Year by a lot of people. A lot of sites and everything named the Feud of the Year of 2010 when they had the original feud. That year long, it was a literal year long feud. They would wrestle other people, but primarily if anyone heard anything about Kevin Steen and El Generico facing one another, oh yeah, you had to see it. It was It was a necessary part of any ROH card at the time, and it was just brilliant. It was fantastic. I love the feud. I don't even think I can count the number of times on both hands I've watched their Fight Without Honor match from Final Battle 2010. Don't think I can. I really don't, because I love that match. It was one of the most hard-hitting, bloodiest affairs I'd ever seen, and neither man disappointed in that match. When Kevin Steen won back his job with ROH, from when he beat Steve Corino. He beat Steve Corino. Everyone wondered how Generico would react. Generico had a match earlier in the night, and to whoever booked this feud's credit, and I mean whoever booked it, if it was both those guys' idea, great. Generico, after Kevin Steen won, came running out there, and it was all over, and it started all over again. And as a matter of fact, the WrestleMania weekend Showdown of the Sun that following year, 2012, just before Kevin Steen won the world title, they had a last man standing match, which Steen won. These guys not only were a fantastic tag team, they put on a fantastic feud. This is say nothing of their Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, matches and things they had, and when Generico left the WWE, where he's Sami Zayn, is that how you pronounce it? Sami Zayn, I guess. And Kevin gave an honest to goodness, like a few words about Generico, his friend and partner, his pretty much blood enemy. But I think the feud showed the toughness of both guys, because a lot of people figured Generico for like a comical character. Didn't know how hardcore he could be without Kevin Steen, because he's usually kind of like Kevin Steen's, I guess, yes man, a straight man, I guess you could say. And he was only ever really hardcore because, you know, pretty much Kevin Steen said, hey, let's go fight these guys. So you take that one, I'll take this one, let's go. And he did. But Generico on his own, just, you know, and pretty much because of that feud, everyone saw Generico, further saw Generico, excuse me, as his own man, not needing Kevin Steen. And anyone who didn't know Kevin Steen could, you know, just fight and fight and fight and fight and fight, knew that now. So I think you needed, and that, when I say you, sorry, I think ROH, Steen, and Generico, and just wrestling in general, needed that kind of feud. It needed that kind of one that just inspired so much, like, you know, you could see the anger in both of them, you could see the hatred they have for one another, and how far they're willing to go just to put the other one, you know, out for good or down for good. And it just made for great wrestling. Made it fun for wrestling fans. It's fantastic. So, Kevin Steen and El Generico, there will always be two of the greats in my book. I'm happy to see Generico in even if it's under a new character, under a new persona. I'm not gonna lie, I would have liked to have seen him as ROH World Champion at least once before he left, but you know, we can't always get what we want. But I'm happy for him. Kevin Steen will go down in history as one of the most fighting Ring of Honor World Champions ever, and one of the best. Look at the list of people he defeated after he won the belt. The list of people he defended that belt against is a who's who of pro wrestling. He will go down as a fantastic champion. Both these men are world-class athletes, but they could put on some world-class fights too. Don't get me wrong. They are athletes to the core, but they can fight like anybody else, and they proved it more than once. So, my advice to all my fellow ROH marks is pick up Final Battle 2009, Final Battle 2010, and Final Battle 2012. And if you can, Death Before Dishonor 8. And I think you really get the core of that feud between those guys. Pick up the other DVDs, of course, to get the rest of it, but that's just like the core basics of that feud. You get the beginning, the end, and the ultimate end of the feud. So, yeah. If anyone out there would like to see just some more ROH DVDs about the feud that, you know, you think people should see, go for it. You know, leave me a response, video or comment down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys take care. God bless. Peace.